Tesla is currently offering a 1.99% financing deal on both the Model 3 and the Model Y across all trims. All of them qualify for the $7,500 point of sale EV tax credit in the US. Now you might be conflicted. On one hand, the Model Y is more practical due to its increased size, leading to better storage capacity and making it more suited for families. On the other hand, it's outdated compared to the new Model 3. So, what should you do? First, if you haven't already test-driven both the new Model 3 and the current Model Y, I highly recommend you do so. Unless, of course, you're a super impulsive buyer who really needs a Model Y but ends up test-driving the Model 3 and immediately buying it, only to regret it when the new Model Y comes out. But assuming you're an adult who can control yourself, test-driving both is a good idea, so you can get a feel for what you might be missing. When I say missing out, I'm comparing the new Model 3 with the upcoming new Model Y. So if you do go test drive the current Model 3, that's pretty much what the inside of the new Model Y will be like. Of course, just lower to the ground and probably more firm. I personally believe the new Model Y will one-up the new Model 3 in ride quality, which makes the most sense for a family-oriented vehicle. But that's just a guess on my part. Since we're already on the topic of the new Model Y, and I know people are going to ask, here's what we know about the release date. We're looking at sometime in the first half of next year, more than likely Q1. That's what all the leaks are pointing to. As for pricing, some people believe it's going to go up, but I personally doubt it. From what I've seen, the people predicting a price increase are the same ones who said the new Model 3 Performance would release at over $65,000, which obviously never happened. The new Model 3 didn't increase in price, and I can almost guarantee the new Model Y won't either. It just doesn't make sense with Tesla fighting for demand. And finally, for those worrying about interest rates and thinking Tesla won't run a special financing offer on a new product, just look at the current Model 3. He's still cheap. The Model 3, the new one, is a big improvement for most people. The best way I can describe the change is that it looks more aggressive, but not over the top. It's like they just removed the baby fat. They made it less bubbly. As for the rear, I think everyone universally agrees that the new taillights and everything just look a lot better. So, in terms of looks, I'd definitely give it to the Model 3. In terms of the interior and overall feel, I'd 100% give it to the Model 3, except for two things. You get ventilated front seats, a better looking screen with smaller bezels, a nicer looking and feeling steering wheel. I'm a fan of the hole at the bottom. More ways to grip the wheel is always better. A nicer center console with the ability to cover everything up, and a better glove box if you need to put heavier items in there since it's a shelf, so your heavier items aren't just leaning against the doors. There's also a bigger exit button, new emergency releases for the rear doors, a rear screen for kids that allows them to connect headphones and listen to their own stuff separate from you, and more. The only area where the new Model 3 falls short is in storage space or overall capacity. The Model Y fits bigger passengers more comfortably and has more storage space. Goes here. I mentioned there were two things, and the other one might be a plus or a minus depending on your preference, and that's the lack of stocks. To be honest, I've realized that most people who complain about the lack of stocks have never actually owned a car without them, or they drove the new Model 3S or X once or twice and are now convinced they suck. Next up is driving, where there's actually not much difference. The Model Y was built on the Model 3 platform, and the new Model 3 still drives like a Model 3, so both are very similar once you get behind the wheel. However, I do think things like ride quality and road or wind noise are slightly better in the new Model 3. The refreshed Model 3 got an upgraded suspension for a more comfortable ride, which, after riding in both, in my opinion, puts it on par with the Model Y's comfort suspension, if not just slightly more comfortable. This is along with double-pane glass and a complete overhaul of the materials that aid in keeping outside noise out of the cabin. As for acceleration or handling, that just depends on the trim you choose. if you want the fastest option in the Model 3 or Model Y and aren't willing to step up to an S or X, then you'll have to get the new Model 3 Performance. So yeah, in terms of driving, I think the Model 3 slightly edges out the current Model Y simply due to better ride quality and noise isolation, but in actual driving, they're pretty much the same. Now, when it comes to being an EV, range, efficiency, charging, I'm going to be honest, it doesn't really matter. Neither the Model 3 nor the Model Y across any trims has a stark difference in range or charging speed. They're all within 50 to 60 miles of one another. Maybe if you get an LFP Model 3, you're capped at 170 kWh supercharging speed or 32 amp home charging, but since the long-range RWD exists for the Model 3 with a tax credit, I'm not recommending the LFP Model 3 anyway. At the end of the day, if you get a new Model 3 or a current Model Y, you're getting a great EV with a fantastic charging network. If you want better efficiency, just drive more efficiently. My last Model 3 Performance, which I did kind of baby for a long time, had a sub 250 Wahhanismile efficiency for almost the entire time I owned it, whereas my new Performance, which is rated at around the same efficiency, has well over 300 Wahchanchmile because, well, I haven't babied it. As for the build quality between the new Model 3 and the current Model Y, it's kind of the same story. It doesn't really matter. They've been making the Model Y for years now, and they've got it down. However, from what I've seen and heard from owners, the new Model 3 interior does seem to be more solid, less creaks, and rattles. Finally, regarding autopilot or full self-driving, both the current Model Y and the new Model 3 are equipped with hardware 4. Meaning whatever one can do, the other can too. They have the same number of cameras in the same positions, so it's not like buying one will future-proof you to do more in terms of autonomy. As of now, with the current promotions, tax credit, and overall pricing, the only real reason, in my opinion, to get the current Model Y over the Model 3 is if you need the space. Even if you hate the lack of stocks, I'd say it's worth dealing with them just to get all the new features the refresh has. Besides the extra space, the new Model 3 is miles ahead of the current Model Y. All the updated features and quality of life improvements that the refresh brought are just so nice. But when you actually experience them, they're super nice. So yeah, unless you need the space, go for the new Model 3.